All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this quarterly state of QuickBooks Desktop. We're going to be talking about some of the changes that have come about in Desktop, some new release things that are happening today in the Accountants edition of Desktop, and then generally they release out to everyone else 2 weeks later. And just some overall updates as per usual. So let's go ahead and get things started. If you guys have questions, I probably will have to get with you after. We have a lot of things to go through today, but definitely put your questions into the chat and we will get those things tackled. All right, so first off, as a reminder, we talked about this last time, so there was a price update. So if you missed it, we do have a YouTube channel. So YouTube channel is just at Fourlane, and it has all of our State of QuickBooks Desktop recordings in there. If you ever need to go back and look at when did these things get released. Or we used to call them the What's New in QuickBooks Desktop as well, recordings. And we used to do them just annually, but because, of course, they used to drop everything all at once. Now they drop things quarterly into the product, which is awesome, which is also why you're not going to see a 2025 release, right? Because they're just releasing these updates as we go, so we don't have to do these crazy fresh installs. So there was a price update. So if you missed that last time, you can take a look at it, but it was a pretty significant update for a lot of people. But as I always say, what's the alternative, right? QuickBooks has historically always been a very, very low-cost software compared to everything else out there. So they have a lot of wiggle room on their pricing, and that's what we tell customers when they come to us around concerns around pricing, like what is the alternative? All right, we're going to go through May product update, talk about QuickBooks support a little bit, and then a little bit around online because there still is a lot of buzz around QuickBooks Online and this new IES, and I just want to make sure that everybody has updated news as we get it as well. Okay, so inside the QuickBooks Desktop product, so I've heard that there is going to be a change. I'm not sure, I'm not 100% positive that this is coming out with this release, but I was told that by the end of May, everybody's going to have to get off of the old Shipping Manager. And so what Shipping Manager is, if I come into QuickBooks here, when we go in to Shipping down below and we set up FedEx integration, UPS, USPS integration, that the old Shipping Manager is going to be sunsetted, and we're going to introduce a new shipping company, which I think is called ShipRush, but I was right before this having a little bit of a brain fart because they're all called the same stuff, right? ShipStation, Starship, ShipRush, blah, blah. But I think it's ShipRush, and we're going to be shifting customers off of that. I don't believe that a ton of our customers use this integration for shipping, so I don't think it's going to be a massive overhaul, but if you do use it, please ping in the chat here or reach out to us and we will help you with that transition, whatever it is, okay? All right, the second thing that is going to be released is some changes to paste from Excel. Now, I can't show these to you yet because the update hasn't actually been released yet, but I am going to talk you through them. So changes to paste from Excel, and what that is, right, if I go into any of these centers, the customer center, the vendor center, whatever it is, go to customers and I click on Excel and go to paste from Excel, then I have different things I can paste in here, customers, vendors, service items, etc. What we're talking about, the change is under vendor items. So notice when I choose vendor items right here, it says active items for this vendor, and it doesn't have anything. So I'm showing you the before. It doesn't pre-populate any of your items in here, so it can be quite hard. You're going to have to paste in the item name, description, etc. And also, even when I do put in a name, right, it doesn't have a drop-down at all, so I can't like start typing and have it show up. Well, that is going to be changed. So you can see here when I choose vendor items, it's kind of small, I know, but you can see that it pre-populates all of the names, and then as well it has a drop down so you can see the entire list. So that change is going to happen. The other change that is going to happen is when we are looking at the items, and you have the preferred vendor here, right? So you have the preferred vendor column, and when we look at customized columns, we don't have the alternate vendor, right, as an option in here. So you can see they have alternate SKU, which I have as a custom field in this one, but no alternate vendor. So in order to change the alternate vendors, right, I have to go into the items themselves, go to alternate vendor, click manage, then I can make changes for who the alternate vendors are. And then I have to, if I want to do the next one, I have to open up the next one. So that same screen is going to pop up. It's just going to be a pop-up in the grid here, right? So it's still going to be the same screen that pops up, but it'll be a pop-up in the grid, so you don't have to edit each individual item. So they're going to be making that change. The next one is with enhanced inventory. They made a pretty big fix, which I'm super excited about. And so with it, first one is, this is funny, when you turn on enhanced inventory receiving, right? So enhanced inventory receiving, if you don't know what that is, if you go into edit and preferences and you go to your items and inventory, we have this advanced inventory. That is not what I'm talking about. It is enhanced inventory receiving over here. When you enable enhanced inventory receiving, what it does is it takes your item receipt, right, and your bill. So if I look at these transaction types, I've got a receive item screen and then I have a bill screen. And it takes and separates those two transactions. So right now in the version I'm in, which does not have enhanced inventory receiving turned on, if I go in and receive an item on 5/19, the item will come into my inventory on 5/19. If I then go in and put in a bill, right, from the item receipt, it replaces the item receipt with the bill. And let's say the bill is dated 5/30. Well, now those items do not show as being received in my inventory until 5/30 because it is the same transaction, right, and it's a hard-coded date there. When you enable enhanced inventory receiving, item receipt, what happens in that situation is it goes, items come in, debit to inventory, credit to receive not invoice. And then when we get the bill in, it credits AP and debits that receive not invoice account, right? So it's just a flow through account. So they separate those transactions. I can receive the items in on the 19th. I can have the bill dated the 30th, and it's not going to mess with my inventory. This is one of my favorite features that most people don't know about with QuickBooks. A lot of people hate it, mostly because they don't know how to use it that well. But I love it. So one of the things, workflow-wise, that would happen is if we went in here and we created a purchase order. So this is the used to be way. Well, I don't have it turned on, so I'm not going to be able to talk. I'm going to talk you through it. When you put in an item, right? So I'm going to put in an item for some chocolate gummy bears in here, and then I hit save. When you go to enter an item receipt, it would enter the item receipt against the purchase order, and it would calculate against the purchase order those items and say, right, you've received 85 of the items, or let's say 45 as an example. Then if from the item receipt you entered the bill from the item receipt instead of entering the bill from the purchase order, it would not mark the purchase order as fully billed because there was a disconnect between there. So they now make it, now the fix that's being rolled out is the 3 will not get disconnected if you go out of process, basically, right, out of workflow process. When you create the purchase order, you can enter the item receipt, or you can enter the bill, or you can enter the item receipt and then the bill from the item receipt, and it will not break the linkage back to the purchase order. Okay, so that change is being rolled out. Again, I didn't hear the problem from too many people. How we taught people to handle this known issue was a workflow thing, right? It's just an order of operations thing, but it's fixed. So that's great news. Fixes are always awesome to see. I know for years we have been asking Intuit to focus heavily on fixes instead of just feature, and so it's great to see them doing some a little bit of both. All right, and then the next one, which again is super small in here, and I apologize, I could only grab a screenshot, but essentially when you are in QuickBooks and you go to your Customer Center and you add additional contacts, those contacts weren't really usable in too many places. Now, when you have these additional contacts, if you go into File and send forms, right, and email forms out, you will be able to select those additional contacts. Now, they don't have a select all. It was called out to me by the developers that they don't have a select all, so I'm guessing that they might be working on that. But you can come in and select those additional contacts, so that's great. So that's what's going to be released. Again, probably one of the biggest is this shipping manager changeover, and I don't have a 100% date on that, but just wanted to make you aware so you guys can see that. As always, improvements in QuickBooks Desktop keeps my heart happy, knowing that they're doing things to fix the product. I do have discussions around roadmap with Desktop, with Intuit, and so to me, right, State of Desktop is all about that. I know there's a lot of words, especially this month of May, when everybody says QuickBooks Desktop is going away. As a reminder, when people talk about desktop at Intuit, they're talking about Pro Premier. When they're talking about Enterprise, that is not included under their desktop, even though they both are desktop products. So do I believe that Pro Premier eventually will be pushed up to Enterprise? 100%, but I think Enterprise is pretty solid. Okay, also, just as a reminder, we haven't gone through this in a couple of months, but we do have the web-based extension for QuickBooks Desktop, and we haven't, again, seen this in a couple of months, so I wanted to make sure that we focus on that. So, a lot of the times when customers come to us, they say they want to go to QBO because they want cloud access to their QuickBooks data. They go to QBO and it's a brand new product. Or they go to NetSuite or Intact or any of these products and it's a brand new product and it's a massive overhaul to learn. It's really hard to get data moved across. Cleanup of data after the move is really difficult when they just need some true cloud-based access to their QuickBooks data. Hosting is not the same. We were just the other day going through some internal training. It took us about 3 hours to get 6 people set up with QuickBooks Desktop hosted, which, in the accounting space is fine. Us accountants, we're used to that stuff, but the sales reps, they're not going to be sitting there being patient with technology, right? They just want it to work. And so that's where this product, this CX product, has come from. So home screen looks and feels similar to QuickBooks. You can come into your Customer Center, and it is a two-way sync, of course, with QuickBooks. You can edit things here. You can edit in QuickBooks Desktop, and it has the same look and feel. Also, you can resize the screens, which is something that people really like if you need to, just like any web-based product, you can do that, which means it can also convert over to an iPad or an iPhone or, any kind of mobile device as well. The other thing that people really enjoy around this is the fact that it'll open up to an additional tab. I know in QuickBooks Desktop, that's one of the pain points, right, is that I can't drag it to the other screen. So you can do that here. The screens for the transactions, also similar look and feel. Of course, I've got mine all set up with a whole bunch of different columns and stuff like that in here, but look and feel is very similar to QuickBooks Desktop. So people don't get lost, right? If your users are used to using QuickBooks Desktop when we set this up, the setup is very easy. It's a one-time initial sync, and then you're off and running. So I wanted to remind people that this exists. If you're struggling with hosting, particularly, I know there's been a lot of changes with RightWorks lately and their pricing going up so high. If you're struggling with accessibility, also with speed, things, like there's lockdowns in QuickBooks. That was the other thing the other day. We were all trying to create an estimate at the same time, and QuickBooks just locked up and froze and kicked us all out. And so those kinds of things won't happen in these web-based products. The other thing is entering time. So I know time card entry, there's this whole T-Sheets and or QuickBooks Time, but entering time is a pretty basic thing, and so you can enter time into the system as well. And you know, the price point of all these things are just continuing to go up over there. So anyway, if you guys want to, if anybody wants to have more information about this for their own company or for any of your customers, just let us know. It is our solution, right? Fourlane has been looking for a solution for our customers since about 2016 that will give them, like, you know, we know that QBO isn't the answer for our customers that are in the mid-market yet. Maybe one day it will be, but right now it's not. And so we have to have solutions where they can go into the web and function, have, you know, speed, not have things crash, not have, you know, lot numbers take over your entire session. And so we are in here improving the product in that way. And it does some other cool things, right? Like here we have this related transactions tab, right? It has all the purchase orders. So it does a lot of other cool things. But just wanted to remind you that this is here. If you're struggling with speed, crashing, too many users in QuickBooks, when you have too many users, that can happen in the desktop product. And this is a way to make your life a little bit less painful. Oh, what I was saying with it is it took us about 3 hours to get everybody hooked up with hosting and logged into QuickBooks and all that fun stuff. And of course, sorry about that pop-up. And of course, it took us only about 30 seconds to get all those same people we were training logged into CX and accessing CX. So that's the idea, right? It's just easier in these kind of products. But it looks and feels the same, so you're not feeling like you are lost, okay? All right, back to my PowerPoint. Okay, let's see here. All right, so just a reminder, so cloud user interface, right? Continue to use a desktop product, looks, feels like, boost speed and accessibility. And then, of course, we'll talk about money and licensing savings if you want to give us a call around that. There are options, because again, not QuickBooks wasn't the only people who raised pricing. QuickBooks main provider with RightWorks also raised pricing pretty dramatically. Like that was a big, I think it went from $55 to $85 a month per user, and so that's like a big change. We can talk to you guys about alternatives for that. Some screenshots here. Yeah. Let me move forward. Okay. We already covered this in previous instances, but I'm just going to recap, right? Starting 10/1, new licenses, no lifetime discount. It's only whatever promo they have going, which they've been on promo this entire year, so that's fine. Existing license, if you need to make a change, you lose that lifetime discount now. So definitely give us a call here at Fourlane. Let us help you out with those kinds of things, because we want to make sure that we want to do the ROI chat with you, because sometimes like customers will come to us and they'll say, I want to move from a 5-user to a 4-user, and it turns out that it's actually not going to be cheaper because you lose that lifetime discount. So we'll go through that with you. Enterprise has a promo running, right? They've always been on promo pretty much since October. So I always say give us a call first to learn what's happening if you're making any changes, or if you're new to Enterprise, especially those Pro Premiers. We have thousands of them in our database, so I'm sure you guys will see that. And then starting on 213 Diamonds, which is the assisted payroll, the only way to buy assisted payroll, as well as time cards, QuickBooks Time, cannot be sold through the VAR channel. So that's a change. It always makes me nervous when I hear that, right? Because it makes me think, is this going away? CX, as I just showed you, the web-based product, that does have a time card entry screen, the web-based extension for QuickBooks Desktop. And then also one thing that I didn't throw on here, but we do have a pretty good relationship with ADP for a lot of our clients. A lot of our larger mid-market clients use ADP for payroll. If you need help figuring out job costing when using ADP, we can help you with that. But ADP is doing some pretty crazy promos right now, like up to a year free. So again, but you have to go through somebody like Fourlane to be able to do that. So definitely let us know if you want to consider, because it does make me nervous whenever Intuit pulls something from channel that potentially it might be going away. And this is the only place you can buy assisted payroll. So I'm not saying that, I haven't heard that, but it does make me nervous when you pull it from channel. As a reminder, we're on QuickBooks support plans, so if you've had to call QuickBooks support anytime recently, we know that it can be painful for our clients, and so we also had to sign, by the way, an agreement with Intuit that we would be Tier 1 and Tier 2 support for our customers, which they're not enforcing yet, but potentially could in the future. So we have two different plans. One that's basic plan. The advanced plan covers a little bit more like app integrations, having to do with merchant services, camps, like licensing issues, and some other things in there. But for the price, having to not deal with the underlying theme that we hear from our customers that do have the support plans through us, what we hear is that they just didn't have to deal with Intuit. It's the same, right? We say it's the same reason you sign up for working with an IT company. You don't want to have to deal with Microsoft or any of those companies that you would be using internal software with, and this is the same thing. I think we're pushing up to like 1,000 people using our support plans, so it really is a popular product and helps people, right? There is a cost to everything, but the energy, the cost of energy and anxiety and frustration also that is a big cost, and so that's why we try to have this. It's a low price point for lots of ease. All right, still always at the end of these, I like to talk about. So by the way, if you need help with any of that, just always throw it in chat. We'll call you and give you guys some help with it. Okay, so I have, oh my gosh, just 9 minutes left. Should I move to QuickBooks Online? So this continues to be the question. I felt like after 3 or 4 years of Intuit pushing us to move, or pushing people to move to QuickBooks Online, and everybody like learned that they don't actually have to, or they did and they got angry and they went back to desktop, which is happening a lot right now. Should I move to QuickBooks Online? We can help you with that. A couple of the ways. Obviously, we can help you with it just by hearing about your company. We can tell you pretty quickly if you can just go to online or if you're going to have to go to an app, which I'm going to talk about that here in a second too. Migration testing, that is a big deal. With our support plans, we will do QuickBooks to QuickBooks, right? QuickBooks Desktop to Online or Online to Desktop conversions. The cleanup that comes from that conversion, though, is not included in the support plan. That would have to be through our services team, unless you want to do it yourself as well. That's always an option. But we do strongly suggest setting up a sandbox environment. Do not just do this migration with your live file. Do not plan it and go, oh, we're going to move over. You've got to do testing first. So we can help you out with getting that sandbox available. And then once that sandbox is, you've confirmed it, right? You can wipe that sandbox file and make it your live file, or you can cancel that license and then just set up your main license. That is an option. This is what we do with a lot of ERP level people. You do not just make the switch. You have to plan for the switch, and that's where our company comes in handy, right? We started as a change management company, helping customers change their software. That is our core. And then, of course, now we also help customers clean up their existing and fix their existing workflows and software for those who have been using QuickBooks for years. All right, Intuit Enterprise Suite. We have gotten in some view into some pricing around it, so we wanted to share that news as well. So I don't know that this is standard all the time, but this was coming from a contract that we pulled with one of our customers that is going with Intuit Enterprise Suite. So you can see, right, the things that I like to note here, right, when I'm talking about this is what is included. So the description here includes 1 entity, 1 super user, 5 standard users, 4 dimensions. Dimensions in Intuit Enterprise Suite are similar to classes in QuickBooks Desktop. It's just another level of class, right? So you can have a class list, and then let's say you have a location list, or you have a class list and then you have a brands list or something like that, right? So it's just multiple ways of segmenting data, which we here at Fourlane love because data helps us make decisions in our everyday. And then it also comes with Bill Pay Elite. The things that are added on, multiple entities can be added on. Additional super users can be added on. And I think super user kind of translates to like accountant user almost, but I'm not sure 100%. We're still learning as y'all are learning. An additional standard user, right, $40 per month. Additional dimensions beyond the 4 are $50 each per month. And then payroll can be added in per payroll employee fees. And then they do have IES training up to 5 users at a time for $300 a month. So that one was interesting to me as well. Not like a flat fee, but a monthly fee. I didn't really understand that. So I'm not sure if that is kind of their reaction to support, like trying to charge for support, and they're calling it training. All of these things we're learning. All we can do is share what we learn. And then I can give my interpretation of it, which I don't guarantee is correct. But again, we'll learn as we go through more of these engagements. I have heard that their IES is doing pretty well in transitioning people from QBO into IES. My guess is that it is primarily a price play for people who have a lot of entities. Like we had a client that we were talking to the other day, they had 179 QBO instances. That's a lot of money to pay for every month, right? So my guess is it's something along that those lines, right? Because the multi-entity price point probably dropped down a little bit. Intuit did used to have that with QBO. They had like, buy 20 and you get the price of 10. They had all sorts of different things that you could kind of work with depending on the channel that it came through. But for most of our customers who are just single entities or like 1 or 2 entities, it doesn't apply there. The other big thing that got released last week is they are going to have a new QuickBooks Online ISV partner, so the app partners, the people who connect to QuickBooks Online. They're going to have a new partner program. And so why is this impactful? A couple of reasons why. It could cause a lot of these people, meaning these app partners, to revert back to their desktop days and ways because they're going to be charged, right, for their app connections now. They're going to have to be paying fees. Now, this is pretty standard to do these kinds of things. Intuit's never done it before. This is brand new. So we're going to have to see how it rolls out. So what this means, I was hearing for about a year, I heard Intuit's going to have new APIs. New APIs is what they would say. And I was like, I don't understand what that means. Why are we talking new APIs? Like it's plural. And sure enough, it is plural. So we have our project API. They're going to have a project API. They're going to have a custom field API, which is different, a sales tax API, a payroll API. And they're going to have API that is an data in. And then they're going to have an API for data out. I'm a little concerned around having so many APIs and possibly having disconnect between them, right? So when do I need the in and the out and the project? I'm a little concerned about how it's going to work, but we'll roll with it. For us who, we've built custom applications in the past, I don't think it's going to be any concern. We're not going to be doing more than 500,000 API hits a month. But for some of these larger apps, it could potentially mean their costs are going up, and then therefore your costs are going to go up, right, with those apps if you are using the online platform. So again, I don't know how this is going to roll out. The costs were announced last week. The change was announced last week. I saw that it was going to be 100% waived during Q1 for Intuit, which Q1 for Intuit is August, September, October, and then they're going to start charging beyond that. And so again, what could it mean? It could mean that people from QuickBooks Online decide to need to leave it because they were sold QuickBooks Online plus an app. And those app prices are going to go up, and maybe it's not worth it anymore, right? So it could be a mass exodus, not mass, but like there could be some movement back to desktop again where we don't charge and don't have multiple APIs. Who knows, right? But again, all we can do is bring in news to you, and you guys can decide what you want to do with that news, and that's my job and to maybe entertain you slightly with it. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I told you I'd take up the whole time. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and Marjorie again, Marjorie@fourlane.com. If you want to see a demo of the CX or put your hands on the CX product, we do have per user pricing, and that's just that web-based application so that you guys can potentially get some of your users out of the hosted environment. But yeah, we're here for you. Still feel very strongly that QuickBooks Desktop is doing great. We are selling more of it than ever. Mostly people coming from QuickBooks Online. But yeah, we're here for you and to support this program. Thanks, guys. Have a great afternoon.